Okay, you guys, we're back and we're starting a new chapter. So listen, get your notebooks, get everything you need, because we're about to go through all of these different types of archetypes so you can learn your 12. Come on, let's get into it. Okay, you guys, let's get back into it. We are going to talk more about these archetypes now. I need for everybody to grab them a notebook, because through this book, what I've learned, we are going to start identifying which archetypes work with you. Okay? So identifying your archetypal patterns. The physical workday world you live in is an archetypal theater. The substance of myths and ancient tales is constantly manifesting in power plays, personality clashes, and competitive psychic forces that abound even within a few hundred square feet of ordinary office space. If you think of your interpersonal relationships only in terms of conflicting egos or competition, you will overlook the spiritual significance of these everyday interactions. When you rely only on the perspectives of your first three chakras, chances are you will act inappropriately, jump to conclusions, second guess others, take everything personally, and even misinterpret casual kindness for romantic affection. You have 12 primary archetypal companions. 4 of them are the survival archetypes that we have already discussed. You also have 8 others, personal archetypes that you will learn to identify. They might include ancient figures such as the goddess, warrior, king, and slave, or more contemporary ones such as the networker, environmentalist, and a political protester, which are actually variations on ancient themes. The networker, for example, became a modern-day archetype once people began to associate certain behavioral characteristics with that name. Yet it has the mythic origins stemming from the ancient Greek god, more familiar Roman god Mercury. Hermes also served as the messenger of the gods and was reputedly the only being able to find his way to the underworld and back again. Among variations of primal tribes, certain figures took charge of communication through talking drums, smoke signals, and long-distance runners, marathoners who delivered messages from tribe to tribe. As the demand for communication through letters and other documents grew, the figure of the messenger emerged. So although the term networker may conjure up people who maintain extensive email lists for spreading political and social warnings, it is linked to the messenger of the gods. In this chapter that I'm talking about now, a series of questions will be asked that will help you determine the 8 patterns that have the greatest influence in your life. Identifying your archetypal patterns is basically an enjoyable process because you examine the experiences and relationships of your life from new and often extraordinary perspectives. As a rule or a clue, the archetypes that will guide your sacred contract have a direct influence on your physical relationships with people. So identifying your archetypes can also be somewhat challenging because you may have to reevaluate your life as you view your relationships and experiences symbolically. You may come to recognize that you are involved in a relationship not as a lover, but as a rescuer. This realization can help you understand why your romantic bonds tend to fray easily, because mixing the rescuer with the romantic energy produces codependency. It can also be liberating because it enables you to re-envision your entire relationship history. Instead of believing that he or she has failed at one relationship after another, the rescuer begins to get a symbolic understanding of why he or she is drawn to people who need help rather than people who can take care of themselves. You begin to understand your feelings of rejection as behavior that is inherent in the pattern. An inevitable consequence of conflicting agendas rather than a personal rejection. This shift in perspective from the personal to symbolic offers the opportunity to heal wounds of personal history and to re-script an entirely new future. Learning to read the language of symbols has a positive effect on your self-image and energy. You do not have to wait for a crisis to see things symbolically and accurately. You can start wherever you are. You can gain as much spiritual insight from examining the archetypal patterns that influence the enjoyable parts of your life as you do when you look at those that are operating during troubled times. Every aspect of your life is worth understanding from a symbolic perspective, including why you have a good relationship with a particular person or why you are involved in an especially rewarding line of work. When you start working with your archetypal patterns and interpreting their role in your life, do not exclude looking into all that makes you glad you're alive. Spiritual life should not be only about trying to figure out why bad things happen to you and finding the right prayers to get you out of your dark nights. The emphasis in too many people's lives have more to do with healing than with enjoying life. People are far more motivated to begin inner journey as a result of a crisis in love or work than when all is right in their world. Like when everything is right, nobody is thinking about trying to figure out some type of archetype or shadow work or anything. You're not thinking about it because everything is right in your world. However, whatever your motivation, the first step is to get to know your own archetypes. Remember that archetypes are all essentially neutral patterns of the psyche, neither positive nor negative. Even those to which you initially have negative associations with, such as the prostitute or the victim, they have strengths that are psychologically helpful. Keeping that in mind, you can begin to reflect on the archetypes in your immediate personal family of 12. Make your selections at a time when you will be relatively free from distraction and to clear your mind through meditation, prayer, or deep breathing before you proceed. You will initially find that you identify with more than 8 archetypes. This is natural and a part of the process of determining which energies are most closely related to your own. We can relate to almost every archetype because our psyches and spirits are connected to the great collective of all the archetypal patterns. Keep your attention on identifying archetypal patterns that are consistent rather than occasional forces in your life. So choose at least 8 primary archetypes about which you feel very strongly, but also include a few secondary ones to which you can feel a connection. Choosing your archetypes demand that you stretch your imagination and draw on your capacity to access yourself honestly. So when doing this, you really have to be completely honest with yourself. Your conscious mind may completely overlook an archetype that is one of the most forceful in your life because it doesn't want to admit its influence or doesn't recognize one of its variations. Think about archetypes from both their literal perspective and their symbolic, hidden, and even frightening potentials. Look at the energies of your life. First, work with your intellectual conception of an archetype and stretch your associations as far as you can. Then, step into the second column of perceptions into your internal to test if you have the right mix. If you can ask someone you trust for feedback on your choices, you can also get some fascinating feedback and insights. Be aware that you may be drawn to certain archetypes because you like their connotations or physical appearance. So you may find it attractive to think of yourself as a mystic or healer or king or god or goddess or visionary, but liking the sound of an archetype is not the same as having a spiritual bond with it. To help you determine the authenticity, y'all know what? I'm literally sitting here talking, and this man done pulled up booming while I'm working. It's so ghetto. I'm not taking this out. I'm leaving. I'm leaving this in. Okay, let's keep going. I hope y'all can hear me good. But to help you determine the authenticity of a bond, you need to be honest with yourself as you answer the questions. You need to assess the quality and depth of a possible archetypal bond as thoroughly as possible. If, for example, you are drawn to the healer archetype, pause for a minute and ask yourself why. Be aware that working in the field of health services or complementary healing does not automatically make you a part of the healer archetype. The servant might be more appropriate, or even the rescuer. You will need to find and you need to respond affirmatively to the questions regarding this archetype's role in your life before you can conclude that the healer is one of your companions. That's just an example. So, I'm going to go to the appendix and I'm going to read possibly, maybe two. I don't know. Let's see. Okay. So first we have the Addict. The Addict. Every one of us is touched by the Addict archetype. Okay. The only question is how much of our lives is consumed by it. Besides the usual suspects like drugs, alcohol, food, and sex, one can be addicted to work, sports, television, exercise, computer games, spiritual practice, negative attitudes, and the kind of thrills that bring on adrenaline rushes. In its positive aspect, this archetype helps you recognize when an outside substance, habit, relationship, or any expression of life has more authority over your willpower than does your inner spirit. Confronting addiction and breaking the hold that a pattern or substance has on you can impart great strength to your psyche. Discovering the empowerment that comes with the perseverance has a lifelong impact, becoming a reference point to what you are able to accomplish. From a symbolic perspective, the shadow aspect of the addict represents a struggle with willpower and the absence of self-control. People who are extremely intellectual or emotional, they frequently have a close link to this archetype because they struggle to balance these powers. Without this internal balance, they may give up its power to an external substance that exerts authority, providing shadow order to your life. The shadow addict compromises your integrity and honesty. Many addicts, for example, steal as a means of supporting their habit. In evaluating your connection to the addict, review how many of your life's challenges concern an external substance or a consistent pattern of trying to maintain order in your life. Although that challenge is a part of all of our lives, the degree to which an addiction controls you and your lifestyle determines whether the addict is part of your intimate family of 12. For instance, you can be inconsistent in your exercise program, yet quite disciplined in your spiritual practice. Needing a substance or practice or a person so intensely or so regular that you compromise relationships, finances, integrity, and character, or even emotional and psychological well-being, indicates that you should look very seriously at this archetype as a possible choice. Next is the Advocate. The Advocate embodies a sense of lifelong devotion to championing the rights of others in public or a public arena. Okay, so we already did the Addict. Now we're on the Advocate. This archetype has recognized early on a passion to transform social concerns, specifically on behalf of others. Symbolically, they are dedicated to inspiring the empowerment of groups or causes that are unable to be empowered on their own. By comparison, archetypes such as the Hermit are clearly more personal and lack the Advocate's fire for furthering social change. The Advocate needs public expression, even if it's only through writing or artwork. Like, the Advocate needs to express and to be out in the public. They need to be heard. The Shadow Advocate manifests in false or negative causes or in committing causes for personal gain. So, in evaluating your connection with the Advocate archetype, you should ask yourself how much of your life is dedicated to social cause and a willingness to take action. Okay? Next, we have the Alchemist. These archetypes share the common trait of converting some form of matter into an altered expression of itself. The Wizard and Magician produce results outside the ordinary rules of life, whether causing people to fall in love or causing people to fall in love or objects to disappear. Whereas a wizard is associated with a supernatural power, the magician tends to be seen more as an entertainer. The alchemist is associated with the vain attempts to turn base metals into gold, but in its highest manifestation, it seeks complete spiritual transformation. You may identify with this archetype if you are interested in a path of spiritual development that is aligned to the mystery schools or studies of laws of the universe. The shadow sides of these archetypes are found in the misuse of power and knowledge that comes through them. Seduction and trickery brought about through magic and wizardry play on desires of many people to transform their lives. For the alchemist or the wizard to be one of your circle of 12, it needs to be associated with your physical life in some significant way. Perhaps your work or living situation demands that you be especially inventive or something similar on a regular basis. The shadow wizard manifests either as the use for criminal or unethical purposes, or as feeling of being superior based on high intellect. Next, we have the angel. The angel exists in a category unto themselves because they are thought to be living beings of light and messengers of the divine. Almost every cultural and religious tradition on earth features angels of some description. Angels are typically represented as winged beings who intervene in times of great need or for the purpose of delivering a message or guidance or instruction from God to humans. So even though you probably aren't an actual angel, so to speak, as we know them to be, you can still acknowledge a strong connection to the angelic realm. as noted in people who have a dedication to representing the presence of angels. Artists who paint their images, for examples, authors who write about their personal interactions with humans, and those who live in some way provide a channel through which their presence is physically manifested, exhibits a rapport with the angelic realm. Some people are also referred to as angels because of the loving and nurturing qualities of character that they embody. One may also play the role of a fairy godmother or godfather by helping someone in need, either anonymously or with no expectation of any return. The confirmations going off throughout this video has my mind blown because I'm trying to work. Okay, let's finish up really quick. The shadow side of this archetype manifests through people who make claims to be in touch with the angelic guidance for sake of control or ego or manipulation. You know, the people who act like they're so innocent and they are really not. They are not displaying their true selves, their true forms. So that would be the shadow side of the angel. All right, I'm going to end it here. I'm going to do the next video starting off with more archetypes. I'm not going to pile them all into one because it is way too many of them. And we really need to dive into listening and writing down which is which ones do we feel like belong in our family of 12. And in order to do that, we have to self-reflect and really study them so that we may pick the right ones and they may help us go further on our journeys. Okay, this video, I hope y'all got something out of it. I'll be back with another one. This one has been crazy. I have had to stop several times in recording, but it's all good. It's all good. I believe in authenticity. It happens sometimes. Life goes on. You're gonna have disturbances and interruptions. That's cool. So I'm not about to be this YouTuber or this person who drops videos and act as if distractions don't happen, because they do. So it's all good. This is just what it is. Anyway, you guys, I will be back later with another one. Enjoy the rest of your day. Toodles. Love you.
It's connected to you.